September 2022. The rain fell over Westminster Abbey without mercy. Black umbrellas stretched as far as the eye could see, a field of mourning, still and vast. And somewhere within that slow, solemn procession, a leaf-shaped brooch caught the grey morning light. Diamonds and pearls, pinned directly over the heart of a woman who had just said farewell to the longest reigning monarch in her nation's history. Catherine, Princess of Wales, moved with measured grace. The Bahrain pearl drop earrings swayed almost imperceptibly against her neck, pearls that had once rested in the silence of the ocean floor, gifted in 1947 by the Hakim of Bahrain to a young princess on the eve of her wedding, on the eve of her destiny. Yet as cameras captured that image of quiet composure, almost no one understood the deeper truth beneath the surface. These were not simply beautiful heirlooms passed between loved ones. They were fragments of vanished empires, survivors of upheavals that swallowed dynasties whole, witnesses to abdications that fractured royal families beyond repair, and symbols of a monarchy that has always quietly, relentlessly demanded that its women pay the full price for the continuation of the crown. Tonight, we descend into the shadowed vaults where these jewels sleep. We trace the exile, the ruthless ambition, and the silent despair they have carried for over a century. Because every sparkle has its shadow. And for the woman now chosen to inherit the darkest treasures of Queen Elizabeth II, that burden may prove heavier than the stones themselves. If you have ever wondered whether true power elevates those who inherit it or quietly devours them, then stay with me. This is the story of the cursed sparkle. Hit like if you value stories that dare to pull back the velvet curtain. Share this with someone who understands that history's greatest luxuries often conceal its deepest tragedies. And subscribe, the vault holds many more secrets still waiting to be opened. Let us begin not with glitter, but with the cold arithmetic of empire. In 1947, Britain was still nursing its wounds from the Second World War. Rationing remained. Streets lay in rubble. Yet across the oceans, in the princely state of Hyderabad, the Nizam Asaf Jah VII inhabited a world the British public could scarcely imagine. Often called the wealthiest man alive, his palace held rooms buried under gold coin. His stables lined hundreds of Rolls-Royces end to end. His personal fortune dwarfed the treasuries of entire nations. When Princess Elizabeth announced her engagement to Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, the Nizam sent word to Cartier in London. The future queen could choose anything she wished. A blank check wrapped in platinum and diamonds. The young princess, just 21, stood in the hushed showroom and selected something that stole the breath from the room. An intricate lacework of platinum set with nearly 300 diamonds, including emerald-cut stones of extraordinary fire, and a dramatic detachable double-drop pendant that cascaded like frozen light. Its companion piece was a floral tiara with removable brooches. Together, they formed one of the most extravagant wedding gifts in the entire chronicle of royal history. She wore the Nizam necklace with pride in the early years of her reign. In 1952, as Britain mourned her father and welcomed a new queen, the diamonds cascaded across her neckline in official portraits that would grace banknotes for decades to come. The piece whispered of imperial reach, a gift from one of the last great Eastern potentates to the young sovereign of a fading empire. What happened next to the man who gave it, however, is a story the portraits never told. Just 1 year after that lavish gesture in 1948, Indian military forces annexed Hyderabad in a 4-day operation that effectively ended the Nizam's rule. The man who had written a blank check for a British princess watched his kingdom dissolve overnight. The gold-filled rooms, the Rolls-Royces, the titles stripped away by the forces of a newly independent nation building itself on the ruins of the very empire his gift had celebrated. He died in 1967, diminished, his legendary fortune largely gone, his princely state absorbed into a democratic republic that had no use for potentates. The necklace he commissioned outlasted everything he built. It sits today, worth tens of millions of pounds, on the neck of a princess he never lived to see. That is the quiet irony these jewels carry. The givers are forgotten, the stones endure. But this was only one thread in a far larger, far darker tapestry. What is worth noting here is that not every treasure arrived through generosity. Some arrived through the wreckage of fallen worlds. Consider the sapphire and diamond choker that once rested on the neck of Empress Maria Feodorovna, mother of the last Tsar of Russia. A geometric plaque of deep blue sapphires and diamonds strung on lustrous pearls. In the opulent ballrooms of St. Petersburg before 1917, it had glittered beneath crystal chandeliers, while the Romanov court danced on the very edge of revolution. When Bolshevik forces stormed those palaces, Maria Feodorovna fled carrying what she could. The jewels that survived the destruction of her son, her daughter-in-law, and her grandchildren were smuggled across borders and sold in exile, piece by piece, to keep her remaining daughters alive. Queen Mary, with her now legendary acquisitiveness, gathered many of these pieces into her possession, some through direct purchase, others through the subtle, unmistakable pressure that only a British queen consort could exert upon exiled Romanov relatives desperate for funds and for protection. Queen Mary did not simply collect, she hunted. Through the chaos that followed the Russian Revolution and the fall of other European royal houses, she systematically assembled what became one of the greatest private jewelry collections the world had ever seen. Friends and relatives felt the quiet but unmistakable expectation: if Queen Mary admired a piece, it was often loaned permanently or sold at a price conveniently favorable to the crown. Historians still debate whether this was compulsion or simply the ruthless pragmatism of a woman determined to fortify the monarchy's symbolic armor at any cost. The result? A vault filled with objects carrying the shadows of dynasties that had not survived. The Empress, Maria Feodorovna's sapphire choker, a survivor of revolution and dynastic annihilation, eventually passed to Queen Elizabeth II. She tried it once, worn as a bracelet, then set it down and never took it out again. It was too bold, too Russian, too reminiscent of a world that had been reduced to ash. Then there was the Indian circlet, also known as the Oriental circlet, designed in 1853 by Prince Albert as an act of love for Queen Victoria. Inspired by Mughal arches and lotus flowers first seen at the Great Exhibition, it was originally set with opals, Albert's favorite stone, alongside over 2,600 diamonds. The opals were later replaced with rubies because Queen Alexandra feared the curse of misfortune many attached to them. The tiara was designated a crown heirloom, reserved solely for queens and queens consort. These jewels rose with empire. They embodied conquest, alliance, and the gilded excess of the Victorian and Edwardian eras. But every rise casts a long shadow. The tone shifts here, the golden hour fades, the vault grows colder. Queen Elizabeth II inherited this extraordinary trove, but her personal taste was famously restrained. Classic pearls, structured brooches, nothing too showy. Nothing that swung or glittered with the dangerous energy of the Jazz Age or the lost Russian court. Chokers that sat too tight against the throat? Set aside. Bold Art Deco geometric lines? Return to darkness. The lotus flower tiara, originally a heavy diamond necklace, gifted to the future Queen Mother in 1923, which she disliked so intensely that within 6 months she had it dismantled and remade into an elegant Egyptian-inspired tiara, became the signature of Princess Margaret throughout the 1960s. Margaret, the royal rebel, wore it to glamorous parties and private gatherings, while her personal life unraveled in full public view. A forbidden love for Group Captain Peter Townsend that could never be. A marriage to Anthony Armstrong Jones that collapsed in bitter divorce. Affairs. Long nights sliding into alcohol. A deepening, suffocating isolation. The lotus flower, once playful and modern, became forever bound to a life of thwarted longing and relentless scandal. After Margaret's passing in 2002, the tiara returned to the vault. Queen Elizabeth rarely permitted it out again. The association with her sister's turbulent, heartbroken existence felt too uncomfortable for the image of steady, dutiful monarchy she had spent a lifetime building. The Strathmore Rose tiara, delicate diamond wild roses, commissioned in 1923 by the Earl of Strathmore for his daughter Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon on her wedding to the Duke of York, told another story entirely. The story of duty arriving without warning, changing everything overnight. The young Duchess adored the soft, romantic garland that perfectly suited the free-spirited energy of the Roaring Twenties. Then 1936 happened. The abdication crisis erupted. Her husband's brother, Edward VIII, chose Wallis Simpson and a life of exile over the throne. Almost overnight, the gentle Duchess became Queen Consort, expected to embody the full weight of imperial authority. The delicate roses no longer fitted the role. Taller, more imposing tiaras replaced them. The Strathmore rose disappeared into the vault for nearly a century. There is a pattern here that repeats itself with quiet regularity across generations. A woman enters the Windsor Circle with her own identity, her own aesthetic, her own sense of self, and then the institution slowly, systematically replaces those things with whatever the crown requires at that moment. The jewels are not chosen by the women who wear them, they are assigned. Each loan from the vault is also, in its way, an instruction. Consider the girls of Great Britain and Ireland. Tiara, the piece Queen Elizabeth II wore most frequently of all, the image most people picture when they think of her in full royal regalia. It was originally a wedding gift to the future Queen Mary in 1893, then given to the young Princess Elizabeth in 1947. She wore it for 60 years, consistently, reliably, almost defiantly in its refusal to surprise. Some read this as personal preference, others read it as something more deliberate, a woman who understood that in her role, predictability was its own form of power. Never give the press an unexpected angle. Never let the jewels speak louder than the occasion. Control the image completely. Queen Elizabeth II, shaped by that same bone-deep sense of duty, consistently favored pieces that projected authority rather than fragility. Many of her mother's and grandmother's bolder creations, the Queen Mother's sapphire and diamond fringe earrings with their lively swinging baguettes, the sharp Art Deco lines of Queen Mary's convertible diamond choker, simply vanished from public sight for years, sometimes for decades. They waited in velvet-lined darkness, carrying the weight of stories their owners preferred to leave unspoken. The fallen dynasties, the ruthless acquisitions, the private sacrifices that the crown has always quietly demanded. And then almost imperceptibly the vault began to open again. For a new generation, for a new kind of queen. Catherine Middleton entered the family as an outsider, middle class, immaculately polished, but never born to the purple. On her wedding day in 2011, she wore the Cartier Halo Tiara, a delicate circlet of 739 brilliant cut and 149 baguette diamonds, purchased by King George VI for his wife in 1936, and given to the young Princess Elizabeth on her 18th birthday. Queen Elizabeth herself never wore it publicly. It had been lent to Margaret and Anne, but carried no heavy shadows. Perhaps that was the point, a clean beginning. Yet as the years passed, the loans grew more deliberate, more weighted with meaning. The Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, valued today at potentially tens of millions of pounds, given the rarity of its stones and the depth of its provenance, reappeared on Catherine in 2014 at the National Portrait Gallery. A piece so extravagant that even Queen Elizabeth had eventually chosen to set it aside, perhaps sensing that in a democratic age, wearing the personal gift of the world's wealthiest man could prove difficult to justify. The sapphire fringe earrings, once beloved by the Queen Mother for theatre evenings and jazz-age dinners, but too vivid for her daughter, found new life on Catherine from 2015 onward. The lotus flower returned in 2013, its rebellious associations softened by time, though never entirely erased. The Collingwood pearl earrings, Diana's personal property, passed to her sons after she was lost in that Paris tunnel in 1997, became a quiet bridge to the mother-in-law Catherine never knew. Worn to school runs and garden parties as if to weave a fractured family gently back together. Each appearance was elegant. Each choice spoke of continuity and quiet resolve. But look closer. The jewels Catherine now wears have survived upheavals that consumed emperors, abdications that sent kings into permanent exile, divorces that left princesses hollowed out by grief, and the relentless scrutiny of a public gaze that contributed to one of the most devastating losses of the 20th century. They carry the memory of Queen Mary's iron will, Princess Margaret's lonely decline, and the profound, uncelebrated restraint with which Queen Elizabeth II bore the emotional weight of 1,000 years of monarchy compressed into a single woman's lifetime. In 2022, at the state funeral, the diamond and pearl leaf brooch pinned above the heart. At state banquets, the revived Strathmore rose, those fragile flowers, once set aside when duty became too heavy to wear softly. The Empress Maria Feodorovna sapphire choker, survivor of revolutionary fire, now perhaps waiting for the woman quietly building her own identity as a sapphire princess. And then came 2024, a year that tested the carefully constructed image of serene continuity more severely than any before it. A health crisis, navigated almost entirely behind closed doors, months of public absence, speculation filling the silence that the palace offered no words to fill. When Catherine finally reappeared, measured, composed, deliberate, she wore the jewels as she always had, as armor, as signal, as proof that the institution continued regardless of what it cost the individual inside it. That is the moment the full weight of the vault becomes visible. Not at the coronation, not at the state banquet, not in the official portrait, but in the quiet return. The pearl earrings back at the ear, the sapphire at the throat, the message unmistakable to anyone paying attention. I am still here. The crown continues. The price of power is rarely paid in public spectacle. It is paid in private, in the weight of a choker that once belonged to a dynasty, erased from history, in the knowledge that each swaying pearl drop carries echoes of lost loves and lost lives, in the slow realization that the crown does not adorn the woman who wears it. It claims her. Catherine has transformed many of these pieces, weaving them into a modern, approachable elegance that feels entirely her own. And yet the shadows remain. The unceasing demand to embody stability, while the institution itself confronts searching questions about its relevance in this century, presses on, unseen, unacknowledged, as constant as the weight of the stones themselves. The jewels do not merely decorate, they bear witness, they remember, they endure. Where are they now, these fragments of dark luxury? Some still sleep in the vault, waiting. The Indian circlet, with its Mughal-inspired arches and ruby flames designated solely for queens and queen's consort, has been worn sparingly. When Catherine eventually steps fully into that role, it may awaken completely, drawing a line from Victorian Orientalism to whatever the monarchy chooses to become next. Others have already found new life on Catherine's wrist, at her ear, across her brow, worn with the quiet confidence of a woman who understands that legacy is never inherited passively. It is curated, reinterpreted, carried forward, always at a price. The monarchy continues smaller now, more scrutinized than at any point in living memory, yet still draped in these same jewels that have outlasted empires. But it is the final image that lingers longest. Imagine the vault at night, dim light, rows of locked cases in perfect silence. Inside, the Nizam's diamonds catch what little light remains and throw it back coldly. The Romanov sapphires rest without sound or movement. The delicate Strathmore roses lie exactly as they have for nearly 100 years. They do not belong to any one woman. The women belong to them. Each time a new hand reaches in to lift one of these pieces, the same question stirs unspoken, but heavy as stone. How much of yourself are you willing to surrender so that the sparkle may continue? The rain has stopped. The procession has long since passed, but the jewels remain. And they always remember.